The views and opinions expressed in this program are solely those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of this hosting platform or any associated entities.
We're putting the band back together.
Forget it. No way. We're on a mission from God.
Welcome to After Dark with Jamie and Clint, a podcast where our hosts examine questions about the Christian faith. Questions that are not easy to ask and even harder to answer. No topic is off limits. Contents of this podcast may cause you to rethink long-held beliefs. Listener discretion is advised. And now, here's Jamie and Clint.
Hey everyone, this is Clint from After Dark with Jamie and Clint. I just want to set up this week's episode. We normally shoot with a primary camera that's straight in front of us and then a backup camera that's off to the side, just in case primary goes out. And that happens during the filming of this episode. Only we didn't know it. We only had the backup camera, and you'll notice that we continuously look away from the camera, like straight in front of us. That's because we thought our primary camera was on. And not only that, but I did not place the backup camera in a really good position. Actually, it's terrible. So I hope you'll forgive us for that. Forgive me for that. And just look past that and just listen to what's being discussed. I think you'll enjoy it. We certainly did. So here it is.
It's good. I've got this new hobby you said about the can. I got to say it because I'm thinking the whole time. I've got some coins on. I'm a coin collector now. I started collecting coins.
That's things that happen when you age. Do you also watch birds?
Ironically enough, my father-in-law and I were out.
You're a bird watcher.
And I was like, that is so good. We nailed it.
I mean,
So I'm already looking at cameras to put up at the bird feeder.
Oh my gosh, I knew it.
Just wait. It's coming. It's coming.
I didn't know this.
Yeah.
You know somebody is old when they watch birds.
I was about to make a great theological.
wait, my dad builds bluebird houses. This won't let.
I would love it. I know. Hey, so look. Wow. But, so the one kid that's listening, I don't want to hear that jokes. No, I started collecting these coins, and I was like, how do you do this thing, right?
When are you going to collect the stamps?
And then,
I'm sorry.
if there's an app for stamps, I got it.
I'm ruining the podcast.
She's ruining it.
Sorry.
No, I need you to take this out. Put this out.
Over. This is gold.
This is gold.
Hey, we keeping this.
Birds are beautiful, though.
They are.
I've got some beautiful. Anyway, so my father-in-law shoots squirrels for eating his bird feed. Anyway, and I don't like it. I'm totally against it. Yeah, I know. It tears my nerves up. That just killed the vibe. So I've got these coins, right? And I got this app. And I was like, hey, this is worth some money. And a guy on YouTube was like, what you need to do is look on eBay at the sold ones because it doesn't matter what it's valued at. It's what people want to pay for.
Real estate agent. Don't.
See,
I know.
you need it. I've got this one dime, and I looked it up. Okay, the value is like $1,500, and it sold for like $5.
There you go.
But then after I did a little more research, somebody paid about $1,500 for it. It's all about what somebody places the value on, what they're willing to pay for.
The vessel of something is what you will take for it and what someone will give you, and where those two things meet in the middle.
And God looks at me and says, "You are valuable, even though you're old and you look at birds."
What a final judge, Jill.
And you've got acid reef. Didn't go the way I planned on. That's okay.
Yeah, it's so good.
Have you ever been to church hungover?
I was in a church play hungover. I was in a church play drunk. But I had to play a drunk guy. Let's keep going. Oh, wow.
All right.
My daughter's listening.
Wow.
But they do say it was the best performance ever.
Gee, it was so real.
You just don't remember.
I remember parts. Actually asked me to redo that role a couple of years ago, and I was like, I don't think I could put it the same as I used to.
I'll never match my first one.
Never matched that one, but
Go out on a hop.
I retired.
Oh, yeah.
I'm done. But I had a star on my door. I cut it out of a cardboard box or something.
I think that. Oh, I guess. Okay. Oh, man. Okay. So, speaking of things that we are had to answer, everybody else gets. And this is a really good question. And for those of you who don't know, the quick hits that we did when pulling things out, this was one of the questions that got held up that didn't get put into the bowl.
Okay.
And Delroy didn't do it. But
Who's Delroy?
He couldn't make it tonight.
Okay.
he's our producer.
Yeah, he's apparently on a date, but we'll talk to him later.
Yeah.
Delroy Lindell.
Okay.
No, he ain't gone.
Okay.
It sounds like him. Oh, I'll say, yeah, you missing Delroy. But anyway, getting back to this was one of the questions that got held out. So we were just, thankfully not. I don't know how I would answer this. Well, I don't know if it's how I would answer it biblically, I guess. Yeah, and maybe it's not a.
What are you trying to say, Clint? That we're not talented musicians?
I don't think that is a question yet.
I got a question. Never mind. I haven't said the question yet. The question is, what is Christian music? And is there truly such a thing as Christian music? And if so, what constitutes Christian music? Would Mozart be, is it sinful to listen to non-Christian music? Yep.
Yeah. Gaither Vocal Band, if it's not the Gaithers, you are going to hell.
Oh my gosh.
Like people right out of that, just cut off the video, right?
Oh, yeah.
Don't turn off the video.
Do you know that Jesus was part of the first Southern Gospel Quartet?
Oh my Lord.
I did have, when I was a teenager, I had you remember the Dream Team when first Michael George?
Oh, yo, what?
And it's like, but I did, and Olympics, they had, there was a Christian coffee shop bookstore kind of put, it was like a, like Central Park on Friends.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's not just kind of like that, but it was a Christian, cool place. But anyway, they had these t-shirts that said the real Dream Team. And on the back of it, it was Matthew Martley Kajal. And then it was Air Jesus.
I remember Air Jesus. Yeah, I saw that.
Yes. Yeah, my word. But I have no idea where I was going with that. But anyway,
It's okay.
So yeah, is there such a thing as Christian? I guess we need to break it down. So I will, I will give it to,
Erica?
You can ask to me. Music in and of itself, it obviously is a gift from God.
Yeah.
And so music, and what is music? It's a bunch of notes and chords put together that make us emote, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can listen to instrumental music and be sad or be happy. So the music itself is not sinful. I think if someone wants to make the argument of whether or not some music can be sinful, then it would have to be based on the lyrics. Because the Psalms tell us that we're supposed to make music constantly. So, and it doesn't give us a blueprint of, it can't have any minor chords, right? And, you can't play this and that. So no, all music is a gift from God, period. I think music could cross the line, and I'm just speaking in general terms here. We can dive in more later, but it could cross the line based on what we're saying at that point in a song and what lyrics we put over the music. A lot of blues music, old classic, I'm talking blues songs, right? For Robert Johnson or these, Blind Lemon Jefferson, these old blues guys, they put lyrics over gospel music.
Yeah.
And vice versa. And then gospel music would have lyrics over their songs, right? So the whole point is the music, there's no sinful value in any music.
Let me ask.
I don't believe that. It would come with lyrics and what the heart behind something is.
Well, let me ask you, in the Bible, there's a songbook in the Bible, right?
Mm-hmm.
And is there any music notes in that songbook?
Ollie Reader has lyrics. If there's some way to note what
The Book of Songs.
the book of songs, if there's a particular, no, I'm unaware of that. But we only have the lyrics.
Right. Yeah. And then now let me ask you another question. When in Genesis, when God was creating everything, he spoke it into existence. He didn't send it. Like, and and it playing a musical instrument and thing extra period, that he said like a lightning was like the spoken word. I agree with you 100%. It's not used.
Well, I see what you're saying, because even over the years, we see some of the Psalms and things like that taken out and put into Southern Gospel, which I believe on Southern Gospel. Yeah. My wife loves it.
A lot of modern worship is
You not? Yeah, a modern worship, you'll hear it in hip hop, country. You just hear it. You know what I mean? So you can take those lyrics and put them over any type of music, and they still have the same meaning and power, right? Oops.
Yeah, I will give you, and I'm not going to say the guy's name, but there's a video of him preaching, and he has How Great Thou Art, and the first iteration of it was a cappella, and he said how full that was, and how you stand in awe of God and in reverence and all this. And then there was another iteration where it was just, I think, piano, and they played How Great Thou Art and say How Great. And then it went from there to the Southern Gospel, and then it went to pop, modern Christian. That has its own needs.
Right. And just basically went through all the genres of music.
Then he went to like really real, like I don't know, like death.
Something real heavy.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Real heavy.
And and of course, everybody in the church, they were like, oh, and then he goes, did that put you in a frame of worship him? And I had a problem with that, because I was like, wait a minute, you don't want, that's just not your kind of music.
That's not your style.
So it is a taste. It's not a spiritual thing. Right.
That's right. Here's the thing. God sees the heart, right? We don't see the heart. So even with sin, forget music.
Yeah.
A sinful moment is always rooted in our heart, right? And so I think, what is the heart behind the music that someone really enjoys? Listen, my husband likes some really heavy stuff. It's not for me, but
I like him already.
He likes it, and he resonates with the musicality, and he's a drummer, and so that double kick drum and all these I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't play drums, but I'm just saying, like, all this heavy music, and he really resonates with that. Yeah. But I will tell you, he told me recently that he has quit listening to heavy things that aren't Christian lyrics because they were bringing him down. And I think that's the key. Is everybody has different music they resonate with, a different style. They might like country. They might like I love the blues, right? Or maybe people like jazz or death metal, whatever. The music itself is not the problem. The music itself is not where any sort of sinful a thing is going to come from. It's going to be in what we're saying, in what is being expressed in that moment, in my opinion.
Well, two things I want to throw out there, and I really wanted to get your opinion on a lot of this. Disciple. Does he listen to Disciple?
He does.
Like they're godfathers, Christian metal.
They're
great.
They are.
And
they got the mullets.
They're not like his top, but
no, they've been around a long time now. No, that's a Rock and Roll Express. That's wrestling affecting, man. Yeah, they've been around a while though, so they're not. If I get that, but
It's like their hair's sliding off for me.
yeah. I'll show you those guys later. No, these dudes right here, though, what's really cool about them is they used to go to 93.3 The Plant, their birthday bash they would do. They would get invited every year. Mm-hmm. And they were like, I think you said this, we are Christians who are in a band.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, their lyrics are unashamedly Christ-centered.
Yeah.
But they were like, we go places you don't go. They did Ozfest and stuff like that. And they're like, we're taking the gospel everywhere we go. We are who we are, And they did one of their songs, super hard and heavy and all that, this live event. You can catch the video on YouTube. Then they go into the Carrie Job song. What's the one she's famous for? Forever. And dude, it was beautiful. They didn't make it all rock stuff. It was just like literally worship. And they went on for like 15, 20 minutes toward the end. And I thought to myself then, like, look at these people who are worshiping in spirit and truth, who probably would never go to church, Yeah. And it all just tied in together so perfectly. Completely different styles of music tied in perfectly. But I told Clint this. There's a pastor I got into it with once. And that totally against any type of contemporary Christian music, worship, anything, only Southern Gospel and hymns. And when I asked them about it, I said, what is your deal with this stuff? This is what he told me, because you just said it's about the lyrics, right? Mm-hmm. He said, the drum beats, your husband will love this. He said, those are deep African tribal.
I knew what you were going to.
Have you heard that?
I have heard this, and it is garbage. Listen,
I told you, man. We got her.
the drums were flayed. David talks about that's garbage.
Yes.
That's garbage.
But he said anything with a drum beat is conjuring up spirits and all that. Even if they're singing about
he
Jesus.
doesn't even know biblical, I would say scriptural passages about we play in the drums and the tambourine and all these different percussive instruments. That's
So do you think some people then go beyond this is my personal taste to try to make scripture prove their opinion?
and I think someone told him that at some point,
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
and he just thought it was true. Somebody will say your modern drum beats are rooted in some satanic, tribal, I don't know, practice. And he didn't question. He just believed it.
This dude literally told me that a local guy had asked
That's
about.
Eric said it's fine.
Oh yeah,
That's it.
and this was several years ago. But he said somebody had asked about taking their youth if they wanted to go. I'm about to call the name. If they wanted to go with their church to Winter Jam, and he was like, no, because they are conjuring up.
Well, Lord have mercy.
And I said, dude, new song? They're like in their 70s, man.
The Lord would have already struck them dead if they were conjuring.
Yes. But that's the type of stuff that people are being taught. Like you say,
Yes. I think it's less and less common, but I think there's still an entire generation of people that actually believe that, which is shocking. It's shocking.
well, as a musician, how do you deal with that when you hear that stuff?
I don't cast my pearls before swine.
Wow. Hey, Clint, I gotta give you some of that back. That was good.
I mean, that's going to be my answer to that. I will not. 2 + 2 is 5. You're absolutely right. Thank you. Have a good day. The older I've gotten, I don't engage. If someone says something that outlandish,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, great.
Well, you know,
I fully disengage at that point. And it's not, now listen, if I felt like the Lord was saying, please speak truth to this person, then I would do that. But unless I have that directive, that very specific directive from the Lord that I should engage this person, I do not.
Mm-hmm.
Because the older I get, I think there's a lot more merit to knowing my audience than to just spouting off truth at people.
yeah, yeah.
And this person's not going to hear what I have to say. And that's not, if the Lord told me to say something, I would do it. I would be obedient. Or sometimes I miss it. I'm not perfect. But if I thought he was, I would say it. But I'm not getting involved in that. I'm literally not even engaging it. I'm just not going to do it.
I love that you said the older I get, because the older you get, you'll be collecting stamps, watching birds. But also,
Coins.
coins, selling on eBay. I gotta get my shop set up this weekend. But the cool thing is that you said that is I used to really believe it wasn't an argument, because Paul said don't argue over what meaningless genealogies, but it was like I really want you to understand. If I give you
you can't make them understand.
Yeah.
You can't.
and older I got, and I'm like you, like whatever.
This man thinks, and the way I would look at that is, if this person thinks something this ridiculous and this clearly unbiblical, there's nothing that I'm going to say that's going to change this person's mind.
Took a long time for me to understand.
I just don't believe that. And it took a long time for me to not be like, that is so wrong. What are you talking about? I'm just like, oh, great. So see you later. I'm just not going to stick around for that. No, I think not casting your pearls before swine has a lot of, it sounds so derogatory. I don't mean, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's true though. We have to know our audience. And there are people that you can have a really healthy discussion with, and there are people you cannot. And someone that said something like that to me, I would be like, okay. And I wouldn't engage it.
It's not constructive at all.
No.
I think if you look at the conversations Jesus had with the different types of people,
Yes.
yeah, you just watch how he handled people. And the ones that he knew really sought truth
Yes.
versus the ones that were just picking a fight.
Correct.
So, yeah.
Correct. And I think a lot of people that are that staunch in their stance against something that is clearly ridiculous, they just want to pick a fight. And I don't have tolerance for that.
That's cool.
I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the pilot.
Sorry, man. We went all on that one.
No, it's a common art. I knew exactly what you were going to say.
That's the first time I'd heard it. He'd never heard it, and I was like, I pretty sure a guy told me that. He teaches his people this.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah, and it's pretty common in certain circles, Yeah. And I see who you got down there, and those are some of the people that they hate with a passion.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Chris Van, Lauren Day.
Well, listen, I was looking at that and those names, and who was the guy at Hillsong that faked to being sick to write Healer? Or hey, that's not true. He faked cancer. He was struggling with a sin. I won't even get into that because don't we all?
Yeah.
He was, but that sin that he was hiding literally made him physically ill. He would be on stage with an oxygen tank, and he wrote the song "Healer." I believe you're my healer.
I didn't know that story.
Yeah, he wrote that song. And so just because that guy in his depravity,
In his depravity.
In his
Don't bring that word.
wrote a song that changed millions of people's lives. There are stations that quit playing it.
Yes.
There are people that quit singing it. And I'm like, I'm sorry. So a sinner can't contribute to the kingdom? Because aren't you a sinner contributing to the kingdom? Well, listen, was he hiding sin? Yeah, what sin are you hiding? Right? What sin do I not know about that you're doing right now? Like, so we can't, so we have to be perfect to write a song and share it? I don't, that will never, oh man, that will never, and as a musician, just because the source of the writer of that song, just for example, was struggling in a horrible place, that song means more to me.
Yeah.
Because I know this guy's writing this song, and in the end of it, he wanted to be healed from this sin that he was struggling from. And people just ripped him a new one and treated him like garbage because they didn't understand their own depravity. I'm sorry. I just keep going back to that. But
Who was the other? It was Ray.
Ray Bolks. I remember that.
how about Michael English? All the stuff that he... And the Christian music community... I mean, some of them didn't, but the bulk of
Turn her back.
the stations quit playing his music. Listen,
That's what they do. The Christians get you back.
Christians kick you when you're down. Yeah. So I tell everybody, because I do sing, I tell everybody that Michael English taught me how to sing. That's a joke, because obviously I didn't take a vocal lesson from Michael English. I grew up listening to him sing.
Yeah. I used to sing.
I tell Michael English and B.B. King taught me how to sing. Like, that's what I tell people as a joke. I'm like, where do you learn to sing? So, no, people absolutely destroyed him, and he, instead of treating him in love and his mistake, it just pushed him deep into this pit, and the way he was treated really affected so much of the following years of his life. But yeah, I mean, that's just we're all sin. I mean, God, it's just.
Then I've always said it like this. Paul always refers to believers as an army, like a military type as a bill. And I said, we're the only army on the planet that shoots our wounded.
Yes.
That's what we do. And did you guys hear the stuff that just came out about Michael Tate?
No.
News Bureaus? So there's a crazy stuff going on about him. And my wife and I, my niece sent us that in a group text. And we love Newsboys and DC Talk and all that stuff.
Yeah. You grew up on DC Talk.
Oh, yeah, man. And so the thing about it was the stuff that just came out about him. And he recently stepped down from that role. And I was like, they're going to go after him. They're going to go after this guy. And we both said, we prayed for him. We're like, dude, it doesn't change the fact that God still used him, even though he's depraved, he's broken, he is a sinner, and just like you said. And I'm like, does that take away from what he did for the kingdom? No. Always look at David. If you think you've done too much, look at David.
I'll give you one even better. King Nebuchadnezzar, one of the most vile men. Yeah, it was scripture. Guy called Nebuchadnezzar my servant.
Well, I see you've got Lauren Daigle on there.
Yeah.
And I remember when she was on Ellen. Do you remember that?
I don't.
She was on Ellen, and Ellen asked her, just like Jesus tried to trap her off, right? What do you think about gay marriage? And she said, I have friends who are, gay and all of that. She said, I'm not going to speak on that, but here's what I would say. Read scripture. Read the Bible for yourself and see what it says. And I thought to myself, how brave is it that she didn't try to be an authority, because she knew what she was trying to do, but she pointed them toward Christ and his word, and the Christian community went nuts. You know what she did? That's why you don't see on a lot of Christian labels. She did her own independent thing. She doesn't do any of these Christian concert things. She does all stuff, and she still witnesses. And I thought to myself, man, why are we like that? Why are we so, we're afraid. I'm going to throw it out there. Christian radio stations and stuff, it's like, well, we know who gives us money. So we better keep them happy. Anyway, I'm going to show.
No.
Yeah, and it really ticks me off.
Yeah, it humbles, for me, it humbles me to, you got to believe exactly like I believe. Yeah. Yep. And because I'm right. Because my blue-haired grandmother told me, and, so this is right. And you got to believe. And if you don't believe like me, you're wrong. And I'm going to tell you you're wrong. I'm going to put my finger in your face and I'm going to tell you you're wrong. I'm going to put you in your place because how dare you not believe the way I believe.
Or humiliate you and destroy your career. Right.
Yep.
Like you mentioned Michael English, they about destroyed that dude. man.
They did.
His depression and addictions and all that stuff came from what he went through.
Yeah, his struggles were worse after, of course, the business community got through with him.
100%.
We should be ashamed of
We should be ashamed of how he was treated. And that, but again, when you truly understand the depths of your own dark, ugly, disgusting root, right?
Yeah.
Because we are literally dead in our sin.
Mhm.
If you understand that about yourself, you're going to have compassion for someone else.
Yeah.
You're going to. You can't not, because you realize I'm Michael English. I'm him. He's me. I'm David. I'm Paul, who literally persecuted Christians before he began to preach the gospel. So, like, that's me. I'm him. He's me. We're the same. There's no difference in us. And it's just a lack of that. I'm telling you, it's a lack of understanding your own sinfulness.
Yeah.
It's period.
I got to dovetail off of what you just said. I wanted to jump in on that because a great point you made about our ugliness, or in Paul said, and go on, put the verse up here, verses, since you're sir. But Paul said that our best, our absolute best was scabula to God. And I think that he meant to put the word scabula in because if y'all don't know, and we may have to put a bleep here, but scabula was was the equivalent to the modern word
What?
and so
Wow.
yeah, we have to move that out, but honestly, and so you can argue that the word is in the Bible because that's what So,
Are you okay?
Okay.
I didn't know it's going to
but he's saying that our best, our absolute best,
It's garbage.
it get hotter than garbage.
Garbage.
I would rather put my hand as garbage than put it in scabula. But that's what he said.
Yeah.
And I think, me personally, I think he chose that word. He wanted the shock factor.
To make a point.
Yeah. He didn't want it dressed up.
Yeah.
He wanted that shock factor.
And it was raining really bad yesterday, and my poodle wouldn't go outside, so she scabulaed all in the floor. I'm telling you, man, that's where my head went to. That's like, it's gross. I'm gonna start saying that. Maggie scabulaed. Go get it up.
I'd rather say I got this. I had a bad habit, and you will know this word. I had a bad habit one time of saying chiga.
Saying what?
The chiga.
Spanish.
Okay.
Not appropriate.
And
Unless you don't speak Spanish.
also that was a thing. Nobody, and so
You ran across the wrong person.
well, Bethany picked up on that sort of thing, and they'll get you. Those kids will get you, man. I had a Navy friend of mine. He was born in Honduras, and he was raised in the U.S. and that flight system and all this. Anyway, we were in service together, and so he had come over to the house. I hadn't seen him for 10 years, and he'd come over to the house and stayed a few days. But anyway, we were sitting around talking or whatever, and Bethany came in and she'd forgotten something outside. She's probably 9 years old, and she stopped and turned around. She said, Jim, and went back outside, and he's just like,
I hope we don't have any Spanish sticky seeds. That's the only word there.
oh yeah.
It's off the rails now, man. It's out.
Half our viewers are overseas, so I never get that. So you need to look at that. But anyway, yeah. And he's I have that real kid, and I hadn't made the connection yet. He goes, you let your daughter just stand up like that, Your Honor. And I said, well, I mean, nobody around here knows what. He goes, I know what it was. I was like, yeah. So I had to talk to her and say, listen,
I'll take her to the Mexican restaurant.
me and you both got to clean this up.
Yeah.
Do that.
I've got a few verses. Can I read it real quick? I don't want to hijack this thing, but what you were talking, you keep going back to not understanding our depravity and our darkness and all that. And my mind keeps going back to Matthew 18. So Jesus says this in verse 23. He tells this story, right? Therefore, the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who wished to settle accounts with his servants. When he began to settle, one was brought to him who owed him 10,000 talents. Since he could not pay, his master ordered him to be sold with his wife and children and all that he had, and payment to be made. So the servant fell on his knees, imploring him, have patience with me, and I will pay you everything. And out of pity for him, the master of that servant released him and forgave him of the debt, 1,000 talents, right? But when that same servant went out, he found one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 denarii. And seizing him, he began to choke him, saying, pay what you owe. So his fellow servant fell down and pleaded with him, have patience with me, and I will pay you. He refused and went and put him in prison until he should pay the debt. When his fellow servants saw that what had taken place, they were greatly distressed. They went and reported this to the master of all that had taken place. And the master summoned him and said to him, you wicked servant, I forgave you all that debt because you pleaded with me. And should not you have had mercy on your fellow servant as I had mercy on you? And in his anger, he delivered it. The point is he's saying, I've forgiven you so much more than you're not willing to forgive a little bit. You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, that's right there. And man, I just think to myself, are we wicked servants when we don't show the same grace that we've been shown? No, Jesus dealt with that right there head on. Everything you've been saying, he dealt with it. So when we see the stuff that happens with these people, I don't know. It blows my mind. How do we miss that?
It's just shocking that people are so willing to literally adore someone one day.
Yeah.
And simply for their mistakes, hate them the next. I just will never understand.
Well, you heard what he said. He began to choke the servant,
Yeah.
right? And I'm thinking, this dude had this malice, this anger. And that's what we said earlier. They go after people's livelihoods.
Mhm.
They're like, you're destroying families.
Yeah.
Not just that person.
Yes. And those people had children and wives.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just.
And you know this, I want to ask you, being in the public eye, I mean, how do you ever feel the pressure of it when you're in the public eye as far as ministry and worship and all, and you have to keep this air up because people expect a certain thing out of you? Do you ever feel that? Or did you at one time, or maybe you kind of gotten past that?
Maybe at one time I felt like as a worship leader, if I was ever, and the first church where I really began to lead worship, I would say, went through some things there and was very much like, oh, well, you've got these things going on in your life and, you're going through a divorce. So, you can kind of lead worship, but you really can't hold a microphone. And then you kind of have to stand on the back of the stage. And, oh, yeah. So it was these really strange way that I was treated going through that. And so I think that gave me an inappropriate view of how, as a worship leader, as somebody who is on a stage, I'm not special, but just I happen to have this talent, and maybe my dad is good at woodworking, and you're really good at IT tech stuff, and you're really good at bird watching. So I don't know what you're good. So anyway, but like we have these talent. My talent isn't any more special than anyone else's, but it happens to be one that people think is cool, right? So anyway, I think that experience there. Really, for many years, it took me recovering from an understanding that because I'm a sinner, and should I be living in direct disobedience to the Lord? No, that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm not. That's not the point. I'm not talking about someone who's almost giving God the finger and saying, "I'm going to do whatever I want to do. Get out of it." That's not what I'm talking, because that was never my posture. Going through all that was never my posture in that season of my life. In fact, I was working through just some struggles that we were having, and they treated me very inappropriately. And so I think at that time I thought that was like normal. I think I thought that was probably right. And so for a long time I did, as a person on stage, think that I like had to have like everything together, and I couldn't be sin. Like there could be no sin in my life. And That's not even possible. That's ridiculous. Should I be actively seeking the Lord? Should I be actively in Scripture? Should I actively, trying to be more like Him? And of course, all the things that we know we should do.
Yeah.
But I will always fall short. I will always mess up. I'm going to stand on that. I'm going to sin while I'm on the stage. I'm singing and I'm going to be sinning. And we're just constantly sinning. We cannot get away from it. And so it took the Lord really working in me to say, I didn't choose you because of your lack of sin. I chose you because of your sin. I chose you because of the things you've gone through. I choose to you. I don't need you, but I want you. And what you have done, again, has nothing to do with it. And I won't even get into the story, but I led worship at a church before, and we would be on stage, and I actually saw this happen in the rehearsal before on a Sunday morning. In the rehearsal, if a musician wasn't up to par like they thought, they would replace them in the moment.
Really?
And they would bring somebody else in to do that job. And then that person that had worked all week to be on the schedule maybe wasn't kind of nailing it the way they thought they should, didn't have the excellence they expected. The perfection was becoming a sin, in my opinion. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't bring excellence to everything we do, right? Mm-hmm. Listen, when Sister Jo wants to sing on Sunday and she does not have that talent, I am not the one who believes she should be like, oh, sure, make a joyful noise. No, God gave you a talent. That's not yours. That's okay. It's not mean to say that's not what you're good at, right? I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Okay, so that aside, we still in a moment, we don't harm people for perfection. We don't harm people for excellence. People are always more important in the process.
Yeah, for sure.
Forget the process. Love the people, because no one in that crowd, no one sitting in church that Sunday would have known that the whatever player wasn't firing on all cylinders, that person was struggling. What that person needed was to be loved, and they probably and they were put on the schedule for a reason. So don't question what the Lord did.
Yeah.
So it just took me, and then seeing that after what I saw, what I described before, it was like I was just put in all of these places to see things and learn these things and have the Lord really teach me that He uses me not in spite of who I am, but because of who I am. And that includes my sin. That includes my mistakes. That includes the struggles that I'm currently going through right now, and whatever those may be. Yeah. And so that doesn't make me disqualified to be used by Him, because David wasn't disqualified, right? Nebuchadnezzar wasn't disqualified. Like, think about all the people. I mean, it's just Paul wasn't disqualified. So it just doesn't make sense, even going back to the way we've treated people, that people have that view of someone. And I know what Scripture says. People in ministry and a standard. There is a standard. We don't get to just run around and do whatever we want, right? And live haphazard. But at the end of the day, we're all in ministry. It doesn't have to be vocational. It should be as serious to the person that is just sitting in a seat and not even serving at church, the ministry that they're in if they claim the name of Christ.
Amen.
We are all in ministry. It's not just somebody singing or playing drums or preaching or what have you. We are all in ministry. It doesn't have to be our paid profession. Mm-hmm. And again, He uses us in because of who we are.
That's good, man.
And He chooses us because of who we are. And you know what? I go back to the guy that wrote the song Healer. Somebody needed that. The Lord needed him to write that. He allowed what he went through, whatever. Like, He used him.
Absolutely.
And God chose him. And here we treat him that way. He's the one God chose him. He's the one God loved. Right? So why do we do that? I don't know. I think music is such a touchy subject in that regard, and people just.
Well, I'm listening to what you said on that part about the guy with the healer song, and I thought about that earlier. A pastor told me one time, he was talking about just the power of the Word of God, right? And I'll never forget this. He said, you could take 3 drunk guys alone in a room, just those 3, and one guy can stand up and mockingly quote John 3:16, and another drunk guy gets saved. Because the power is in the Word of God, not in the person saying it.
Listen, He can take what we didn't say,
yes,
and say what He wants to say, even in the absence of the words that didn't come out of our mouth.
And He'll keep
That's
using
so
it.
good. That's so good.
And I was thinking about, we talked about this in the one a couple of weeks ago, and I won't call the name. I did then, I think, but there was a guy from a theological camp that is known for being very mean, very harsh, very sit on a stage and.
Frank Jones. No,
But it's one of those deals of where they pick them out, like the Hillsong guy, Lauren Daigle, the whole thing, and they just sit there and critique these people.
Rip them into one.
Just go out. And this guy was asked maybe a year or so before this particular thing happened. I only know because he was doing a pastor's conference, and I was asked to go, and I was like, hey, listen to that dude. Yeah. I played video games, man. It was wasting my weekend with him. Because it's just the heart and the spirit behind it was so mean and hateful. So they asked him in one of those pastors' conferences, I think a year before, if a pastor ever gets caught in infidelity or some type of sexual sin, what is the length of time he should step down? And he said he is totally disqualified for the rest of his life. That man should never be allowed to be back in a pulpit or hold any position. And a year later, this guy was caught, not just having an affair with his secretary, but multiples for like 30 years. And I thought to myself, don't you wish that you had some grace for some people? They're going to give you what you gave, which is none. Yeah. We live by the sword, we die by the sword. Now, like you said, I'm not saying, it's not a big deal.
No, it is a big deal how we run.
But we're saying, dude, we all need grace. Sooner or later, we're going to screw up.
Well, again,
we're going to need it.
One decision.
Right. One decision.
We're one decision away from
losing it all, right? Yeah. And that's when we need people the most. When I say people, we need people who have enough Holy Spirit in them to say, I don't approve of what you did, but man, I love you. And I'm here for you. You don't have leprosy.
I think that we are going to get out of this. Yes, we are going to make the area. Yeah. I wanted to this is more just for us, but you were talking about that church and that person being let go.
In the moment.
In the moment, yes. I was back in the sound where the soundboard runs. Not when this happened, but I was back then, and the sound engineer was just beside himself. This guy, and I'm. What's wrong? And it's chair. What's wrong? He goes, the bass player is an eighth of a note off. And I looked at him and I said, dude, you really think?
Nobody knows. But
I'm not going to have a clue.
Nobody knows but you, ma'am.
I'm never think, what a cool trick.
I mean,
listen, he's playing the jazz notes. Leave him alone.
That's all it is. Yeah. I was like,
yeah. But listen,
I don't hear.
Yeah. Excellence cannot be confused with perfection.
Yeah.
And unfortunately it is. And in every other musician on that stage is just nailing it. If there's one guy that's not quite right, it's okay. Because loving that person and coaching them through it and showing them grace and kindness, it's way more, it's a moment to love somebody that's put right in front of us and we miss it.
Yeah.
If you're worshiping God, are you even there? That you're an eighth of an or a half a beat off or whatever.
I mean, look, I reiterate, if the entire band is just awful and they're not talented, well, sure, how did they? We don't know what's happening, right? But typically that's not the case. And it's like one person that's struggling or having a bad day. Maybe they didn't get much sleep. What happened to them yesterday? Yeah. What's this person been through this week? There's no concern for that. It's just, hey, so that wasn't really great. So we're just gonna, we're just gonna put somebody else here in the next 10 minutes, and then you can take off. Or you can sit in the service. Stay with us. Hang out with us all Sunday. Stay. Yeah. Ew, no, they're not. They feel uncomfortable. You just embarrassed them. They'll probably never come back.
Right. Yeah.
Jade, never heard this side of it before. My daughter is she's led worship before and had her first part-time job a couple of years ago at a church. I've not told you about. I'll tell you offline later on sometime. I have had a really bad experience with a guy that I was friendly with, preached at this church before, stuff like that. Not a large church, but I was there in the middle of it, heard the conversation, and I was like, wow. She said, Daddy, what should I do? And I was like, you got to serve God. But if it was me, I'd leave. Well, she did. And the point is exactly what you say. It's like they want and I say they, a lot of times people just want and want and want, especially with musicians. And but it's like they don't want to give in to that. There's no room for error.
And as someone who I feel like I have to say this, as someone who very much takes care to prepare, and I want to show up, I want to be excellent every time God has called me to a stage to lead worship.
Yeah.
And I know that everybody does.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I don't want that to be lost. Like, I do believe in excellence. I do believe that should be our goal. I mean, we should do everything with, the Bible tells us to do everything with excellence. That is truly, I believe that. But there are moments where we allow perfection, right, to get in the way of excellence, really. Because if one member of a band isn't quite on it, but everybody else has got it, it's going to be pretty excellent. Like, it's not going to be perfect. We don't need perfection. We need excellence. And excellence is a good thing. I appreciate that. As a musician, I know my husband has said the same thing. We appreciate someone who's really good at their craft, right? Because it's like, you're given, like you talked about this can. Let's say this is my voice that God gave me.
Yeah.
I can be like, look what I got. You didn't get it. Too bad. Sucks for you. I can be boastful about the thing I got. Or I can go, oh, don't tell anybody I got this. Because then I don't, but then I'm squandering. Also, no different than, it's just the opposite of, oh, it's really not that good. Self-deprecation and pride are the same thing. So again, whether it's look what I've got, or it's like, well, it's really not that good, but I know that it is, right?
Yeah.
It's like what's on? Like your coins, right? So it's like, it's like understanding what to do with a talent that you've been given. And I don't even know why I'm saying this, but at the end of the day, I think it's more like, hey, do you want to share this with me? Right? Like, do you want some? Let me put some in your glass.
He's gonna love this.
Look what God did, right? It's not about me. It's not mine. He can take it away tomorrow. That is never lost on me. So I think if you don't hone your craft, if you don't work your craft, you will lose it, right? It's a muscle. It atrophies. If it's your voice, even if you're playing an instrument, you'll do that. I'm not as good on my saxophone as I used to be because I don't play it every day. That's normal. But I appreciate excellence. I work hard at my craft. Everyone I know does. But that doesn't mean that everyone that's at excellence is at the exact same level of excellence, right? It's a moving target. Yep. So we just don't harm people in the process of looking for perfection. That's gross. That's not the vibe. That's not what we're doing here. So I've seen that too many times, and I think we just expect so much people, and we're actually detrimental, I think, in a lot of ways in that, and that's just unfortunate.
Well, I'll say this to you, and I love everything you just said was so on point, but I do think most of everything you just said it's mainly focused on musicians.
Yes, because we're talking about music, but it applies to any talent that you have.
Well, it does, but I was going to say this. I'm a preacher. I'm a communicator. It's what I do. How many times have I butchered stuff, misquoted? Do you know one time, thank you for that, Clint, Depravity, Mr. Depravity over there. I was preaching once, and I was into it, man. It was this evangelistic thing, it was a bunch of people. It was great. And I said, man, we've all fallen short of the grace of God. Oh, boy.
Just kidding.
In the end, my buddy looks at me and goes, freaking idiot. I was like, what? He starts laughing. He goes, nobody falls short of the grace. I was like, I know I messed up. I'm sorry.
But that's the whole thing.
But they don't fire me for it.
No, and you don't get replaced, and you made mistakes, and it's just because you're not perfect. Like,
and if Sister Ethel put something wrong on the bulletin, no big deal. Why do you think for the music, it's like they're so harming?
I've thought a lot about this, and I don't know. And I think there's something about people admiring the talent more than they admire other talents.
Yeah.
I don't think they should, but it is the way that it is. But like, look at my dad's woodworking. People see that and they're like, oh, he's so talented. But I don't know that there's this true level of awe that people have. Listen, modern musicians, secular musicians.
Yeah.
We idolize them. It's like they can do this thing that maybe it's because music is a language that everyone understands, but not everyone speaks, right? Like everyone can hear it and appreciate it, but they aren't able to participate. So I really don't know. I think that it's just something that people admire so deeply. Maybe they wish they could do it. And And so I've thought about that a lot, and I truly don't know, because we really, really put musicians. I think that's why
Too much of a pedestal.
when something like Mike English happens, all of a sudden we think he's perfect. Like, we think he's untouchable. We think he's a sinless man. I mean, this is a human being who's sharing his talent with you, and he's being vulnerable enough to do so. So when we find out that he's not perfect, we just like,
Yeah.
you know,
Scott,
here,
man, you're
what
done.
are we doing? What, it doesn't make sense, but it's very common that people who aren't involved in music treat people like they're this really super special thing, and that's just not it. The talent is from the Lord, and that's what's special. But the person is just, I don't know, man.
I get what you're saying.
It's unfortunate.
It's like we get so caught up on the talent.
We do it to preachers too. We expect preachers are perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Let me do it the same thing. Oh, you can't live a sinful life because, well, you're preaching the gospel and you're standing on this stage in front of us, and so you're telling me how I should live my life. But what are you doing wrong? Well, they don't it's just for some reason there's a disconnect.
Oh, yeah.
A disconnect. I don't know why.
Music seems to be that one thing, but I always go back to Satan, Lucifer, right? And I'm like, that's why I think it's such a powerful force. Why there's so much controversy around it all the time.
Maybe.
I really do.
That's good.
And
Haven't thought
I just that's my interpretation of it. I'm like, you guys either you get hated on for not doing the right style, or you're hated on for not being good enough. And then you go to some churches and it's like, none of you should be singing.
No, you're all.
I love you.
Yeah.
Somebody else you bet.
That's not your talent.
But I told my wife one time, well, I've told her many times, I said, Casey, I really think God's called me to be a worship leader. And she said, I really think he would have given you that gift if he had. And he's not, clearly. I'm like, I loved it.
I'll tell you, there's some churches that allow anybody in the choir, and I think this drives home what you're talking about. We visited my in-laws, and so we were, and it was the same thing. You want to be a member of the choir? Yeah,
Join the choir.
yeah, join the choir. Yeah, and anyway, there was this lady up there, and they start singing, the choir starts singing, and the lady had a tambourine.
Oh, yeah, gotta love the tambourine, baby.
Well, what about the flags?
Remember the fight?
Well, the problem with the tambourine and
Wasn't
Was she missing a hand?
no, she was off beat. It was.
listen, people can't clap though,
Can you truly be on beat with a tambourine?
I know some people who can
Oh, she was in
Okay, no, she's like on the 1-3, and then she's on the 2-4, and then the 2-3, and the 1-4.
and she's on the and you know it's what.
But in the, I should laugh, but it's funny. It really is. That's the piano player. She couldn't play. She was supposed to be the piano player.
I think sometimes that's probably why they had the drummer and that little. Okay, yeah, I get it for sound, but he don't need to hear all these people. He don't need to hear that.
Yeah.
He don't need to hear that.
You got me over here watching birds going, man, that's good. I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, there was I saw a concert with Harry Connick Jr.
Yeah.
And he was singing, and people were clapping, and he actually stopped the band because here's saying 1 and 2 and.
We're on the 2 and the 4, folks. The 2 and the 4.
We're going on the 2 and 4, and he had them start clapping first, and died in the rhythm. And then he said, "Okay, we can start again."
Then they probably got off once they started. Yeah.
I tell you what, man, I think when it comes to music, it is such a powerful, powerful thing. It really is. It's a powerful force. God uses it greatly. And I think, I really do believe that a lot of times, especially in churches, people just get to the point of they don't want anything to outshine certain things. And if the music is really excellent, then it can, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So I think it kind of goes both ways too. So I don't know. I think it's just a source of contention, and it shouldn't be for lots of different reasons. I don't know. Just let it go, man.
Yeah. Is it sinful to listen to Christian music? I think we already answered.
I think we've answered
But
that.
I remember there's a visit in the church. A friend of mine was going to the church and had been asking me to to visit, And so I did. Went to their Sunday, and a lady got up to sing. In Christianese they call it a special.
Oh, yeah.
Was it cassette tape and all?
She's gonna sing in a special.
The track.
And no, she sang, and she didn't have a butt when she was done. She sang her butt off. She was good. But it was a Southern gospel song, and so you had the steel guitar, you had the fiddle, you had the whole thing. And so when she got to singing, then the pastor got up to start the message, and he's just like, "Oh, she is just so good." If it, how beautiful the music was and all this. And then, then he started lamb blasting, the rock and roll. And that's the way it was. Even kids in their long hair. And I remember leaning over to Ginger. I leaned over to Ginger and I said, $20. If you go outside and look in his car, I guarantee his radio is on country station.
I guarantee it is.
Yeah. And so it was like he had allowed personal taste.
That's right. That's right.
To dig out. So it was, if it wasn't Sunday gospel, it's just the old country,
It is. That's all it is. Listen, the chords are no different. It's just
Really?
country. It's just country. Yeah. I mean, listen, the chords change, but I'm saying it's the general chord structure. Yeah.
I don't like Southern gospel at all because it's not my taste.
Sure.
I love bluegrass. Isn't that an oxymoron?
Interesting.
That's weird. Wow.
But how the difference? It's very different.
Oh, is
To me,
yeah.
it's in bluegrass center.
She doesn't like bluegrass. You see what I'm saying? And it's not that we're going, God doesn't like that. It's just a taste.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Right.
But why do you think people will go literally to battle with fellow believers over an opinion?
Because it goes back to that. If you don't believe like I believe,
You're wrong.
you're wrong.
And that's just inaccurate. There's black and white biblical truth. But to be honest, the majority of the things that we deal with in this life, there's not black and white for that.
I agree with that.
There's not. Most of it is going to be gray.
Yeah.
There are hard and fast biblical truths. And as long as we agree on that, I had somebody once tell me at the same place where they made somebody leave the stage one day that we couldn't be unified if we disagreed. And I was like, I'm sorry, what?
No.
When did unity be the necessary precursor? I mean, when did agreeing on everything be the necessary precursor for unity? No, unity is a choice. Unity is a mindset. No, sir. We do not have to agree on everything for us to be unified, period.
Right.
That is, you have allowed disunity because people disagree with you. You're a leader here. That's not correct.
Yeah, I think another verse
You
is
work
talking about.
through the disagreement.
I think that's. Do we believe that Jesus is who we said he was? Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
That's the agreement.
That's right.
Everything else, we're
That's
different.
exactly right.
Yeah.
I'm talking like procedural things. That is, we do not have to agree on everything. That is not even possible. So you want a bunch of yes men with you? Is that what you want? No, that's not the goal. Is yes men? It's people that challenge us. No.
No, you disagree behind closed doors, and then once common ground is
That's your unity.
everything is met.
That's right.
That's where you unify. When you go out
That's right.
door, we made this.
That's
specific-
right. That's
So I like what Erica said when you just said that. What was it you said about the agreement, the unity, and all this other kind of stuff? But what people have to see us, they have to see us in unity. They do have to see that. They also need to see that, hey, we do disagree, we don't get along, but guess what? Because we love Jesus, He unites us.
We're unified
Right.
in the blood of Christ.
Yeah, we're unified in this mission.
That's right.
And I think that speaks louder than a bunch of yes people.
Yes.
And
So
and going, kind of going back, circling back to something that we said earlier this evening was people know. They know what we're against more than all, but a lot of that is because that's what we allow. So instead of focusing on what we don't agree on, I guarantee you we have more in common than we don't.
That because what we're not talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yep.
if our focus is more on the positive, not the negative,
Yeah.
it's a different view. So any final.
Well, you were mentioning, is it simple to listen to non-Christian music? And obviously, inherently, no, it's not. But I do think that if someone, I mean, listen, God convicts people about anything. And if the Lord convicts someone that they shouldn't listen to a particular type of music or a particular band or whatever it may be, then they are sinful if they continue listening to it.
Absolutely.
So number one, it's personal. But number two, I think my biggest issue with secular music in general is that what we continually think on is what exits our heart and our mouth. And so I do think that there's a line that can be, listen, I listen to secular music all the time. So I'm not, but it can, if it's a stumbling block for someone, that's such a Christianese thing to say, but I'm how to say it. But our thoughts run our life. And Proverbs tells us that, like, what we think on is what we do. And when you continually listen to music, you are putting that in your mind. You are thinking about it. You're hearing it. And that then is what we do. And so there is merit to making sure that as followers of Christ, what we put in our mind is healthy. What we put in our mind is, honorable, just, pure, lovely, all those things.
Yes.
And that above all else, we're thinking on that. So that's not to say that we can't enjoy some good old country music. We can't enjoy My Child Loves Olivia Rodrigo, whatever. I mean, we can enjoy those things. I took her to the concert last year. It was a great production. They did a phenomenal job, but like that doesn't rule our life. And we can't let those lyrics and those things penetrate our heart, right? Penetrate our mind so that because that then will become, what comes out. What comes out.
I will say this. I used to stay on my kids while I was going through my everything has to be Christian, you know what I mean, and all that stuff. So thank God I kind of grew me up. He matured me, right? And I'm on them like, you only need to listen to this and this and this. And I agree with what you're saying. But again, it goes back to where we started. Holy Spirit, letting him do his job.
That's right.
And when your older kid comes to you and says, hey, man, I'm convicted. Like you just said, I'm putting this in and it's affected me mentally and emotionally and all that stuff. And then you're like, when God does it, it sticks.
That's right.
When we force it, it's just behavior modification, right? And I'm all for it, man. Just get people to Jesus. Get them to Jesus, let them follow Jesus. You won't stay the same. You'll either run the opposite direction or you'll be sold out. But just get them to Jesus. He'll work that stuff out. And but I agree with you. There's some things I love all my old school stuff, but I can only listen to it in spells and spurts. And some I have to cut completely out because of what it does to me. Now, Clint may be able to listen to it and be like, doesn't bother me.
Doesn't bother me at all.
When then that's my personal conviction versus yours. And I think that's what you're saying, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's knowing yourself. Knowing yourself well enough to know this is sin for me. It's okay that I shouldn't do this, but that it's no problem for alcohol. Yeah. There are plenty of people that can consume alcohol and it's not a problem for them. And there are people who can't.
Yep.
That's okay. That's being human. You just have to know that about yourself and understand what your limit is.
Yes.
My husband even said that he quit listening to a lot of that heavy music because he realized it was affecting his mind.
Right.
It was affecting how he thought. It was making him angry. And it was just like, it wasn't what he needed to be hearing.
But to not go push that on his buddy.
Exactly. But I can't say you shouldn't listen to that. No, I shouldn't listen to that.
There you go.
Or he can say, be careful. This is what happened to me.
Yeah.
But you don't push it on someone. It doesn't mean it's a sin either. It just means maybe the Lord said, hey, I think you should be careful. You should look out for that. It doesn't mean he was sinning. It doesn't mean he's sinning if he listens to it now, right? It's just being careful. And I think that's the biggest thing with, because it's all about the lyrics. We've already said that. And so what is being told to your brain? What is entering your mind? We're set our mind on things above. So, I just think that if that's continually being an issue for you.
I know somebody that had done that, to the friend, hey, watch out for this.
You shouldn't do this.
He shouldn't do this. Coming from a place of personal experience.
Sure.
And so he told his friend of 20 years, hey, be careful of this right there. And then he's a friendship.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, and I think that's funny because it's like, hey, we don't touch fire. No one should do that.
Sure.
There are black and white things we shouldn't do. But I think sometimes if people share it and they make it seem like you can't do this or we can't be friends or whatever, people do it the wrong way too. So I don't know how we shared it, but it's silly when somebody's like, hey, I had this issue. You should look out for this. We should be like, thank you for telling me that. Wow. Thank you. I'm just going to follow that back here. And I'm going to remember, we should be grateful that someone's willing to share, that they had an issue with something.
What was it called when you put a problem with some?
Projecting.
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 Yeah, that's the way it was received.
Well, they
Hey, and that's unfortunate because if he shared it well, then you know what? What that tells me is the guy that got mad about it was probably already having a problem with it.
right, yeah.
That's what that tells me.
Might be something deeper. Might be
Right. So he gets mad because this guy shared something and he felt convicted, so he lashed out at him as well.
Right.
I think a lot of times in conviction we lash out. And
Oh, yeah.
100%. So
Well, a story that I told Clint, I know we're getting late in this thing, but I got to say this. I told him about it. I was listening to my daughter, my youngest, she's 14 now. She's about 12 at the time. Loves old music. I'm talking David Bowie. What's the chick? Nika. Something. She loves all these old things, and these people are all like 70 or dead. And I'm like, that's cool. Because some of them, she's like, Dad, take me to see them. And I'm like, they're dead, baby. I can't. But there was one group that we were listening to on the radio, the one that popped on the radio, and I was on staff at another church a couple of years ago, and she was like, who's that? I said, man, that's Metallica.
that's Dallas.
She was like, you know them? I said, I grew up on Metallica, man. And so she listened to it. I put up a Facebook post, and I'll make this quick. I was like, hey, introduce my daughter to Metallica. That's a win. Now, this is in the afternoon, 3, 4 o'clock after school. That night at about 11 o'clock-ish, I'm in bed. My phone starts blowing up, and I told you about this. And it was my pastor that I worked for. And he started, I'm talking paragraph, just blowing me up in the middle of the night about how sinful that was.
You don't still work there, maybe?
Now,
Okay. Thank God.
and I was like, what is this about? What? And finally I was like, dude, I got to go to bed. The next day I talked to him, and he explained to me a personal situation that I don't want to get into, that Metallica was somehow involved, that it marked him. Does that make sense? And
Yeah.
like he associated that with a bad situation.
Yes.
And I told him, I said, exactly what you said about projecting. And I said, dude, here's the deal. I'm so sad that happened to you. That's horrible. It didn't happen to me.
Yeah.
I don't have that same experience.
Yeah.
So in and of itself, it's not bad, And later he apologized, and I see what you're saying.
You know, that's good. I showed my humility on this part. Yeah.
Absolutely. I was proud of him. But I was like, in that moment, I was like, wow, I didn't really realize, like, I do that. If we're not careful, we will do that. We'll accept something that's personal to us. I think God is walking with us through our, journey, and say, hey, it goes for you guys too. And it may not.
It may not.
Sorry. But we have to be very careful with that.
Well, the music thing, we said it earlier, the older generations, it's tough. My dad grew up, and his parents could not stand that he loved rock and roll. Really? Oh. No, and listen,
Man, Elvis.
my dad has walked with Jesus since he was 7 years old, consistently. I'm talking, he's as messed up as we all are, but he has consistently and daily sought Jesus his whole life. So this is a teenager.
Yeah, his walk matches his talk.
Yes, and this is a teenager that just loves rock and roll music, but also loves Jesus and loves to wear his hair long and ride motorcycles and wanted to play the drums. And his parents just never understood it. And so I think it's a generational thing too.
Right.
Something's happened to them. They didn't like. These parents were musicians. I have albums that my grandparents recorded. So it just
Runs in the family.
runs in the family, right? But like gospel stuff, it's really neat. All that said, I just think that a lot of times we don't like it, so you can't like it.
Right.
It doesn't suit me, so it can't suit you.
Absolutely.
So anyway, it's unfortunate, but discernment. I see that right there. It's true. We just have to discern what's best for us.
Yeah. So anyway, that's all I'm got. If I don't follow in it, music is a powerful tool. We can shake our emotions, thoughts, even our faith. Whether it's labeled Christian or not, the key is to ask is, what's this music doing to my soul?
That's good.
Yeah. I've always said that the music is the language of the soul. And you whether you can vocalize it or not. For me, one of the most beautiful songs I think ever written doesn't have any lyrics to it. It's Pachelbel's Canon in D major. If it's done on piano, it is hands down the most beautiful piece of music I personally believe that have been written. And but of course that's other people go, "Good Lord, it puts me in sleep." And I'm like, it relaxes me. It's just but anyway, it what does it do to your soul? And so could that music be Christian music? Yeah. I don't. I'm like you. I don't think there's a label. You put a label on something like that.
That's higher.
Music is, it's just, it's a tool. Here, a prime example, you got a pen right there. You can use that pen to write positive thoughts.
Wise for death.
Yes, exactly. And I think the same thing with music.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
So, Jamie, you got anything else?
I just have one thing to throw out there, and Eric, if you want to, well, let you do your thing, but maybe just one final thought too on being a musician, and all that. But I will say that coin collecting, even though you guys are hating on it, is actually found in the Bible. It is biblical.
Okay.
Jesus told some stories. Prodigal son, talking about the 99 sheep. But he also talked about the lady who had a coin that was missing. And she went crazy, Clint, over that missing coin.
She wanted a coin.
She needed the coin. Coin collector. And Jesus condones it. It's a biblical thing. Well, sure.
At what age does one begin coin collecting?
Mid-40s.
Mid-40s.
You're on your way.
And late, I think late 40s is bird watching. Could be early 40s.
No, it was late 40s.
It could be early, but somewhere in the 40s.
Yeah.
It's really the 40s that change our lives.
It really is.
It really is.
And it's like, oh God, I'm becoming my grandpa. What happened?
Yeah.
But he's really cool.
He's cool. Yeah. I
Didn't realize he's cool.
had pretty cool
I
brand.
don't collect coins and I don't work.
Oh, but you smoke pipes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
As the old man back then, absolutely. It's a,
100% yes.
no. That's a
Smoking pipes is an old man thing.
I used to say when I was like,
Holmes was young.
oh no.
I mean, he was British.
Yeah, just brilliant.
I mean,
Oh, you had to be British?
the British are allowed to do things we can't do, and let's just don't.
I was on an airplane one time. This dude sat down. He was Santa Claus, man. I'm talking the white beard, the whole thing, a little driver's cap. And I was like, I can't wait to be this guy. That's all I want to be.
That's all you want to be. This
Anyway.
Uses gospel.
Well, with white hair and a beard. Okay. That's why God don't give me money. I do stupid stuff, man. Stupid stuff. I'd buy a castle.
Maybe that's fine. I'll muddy out.
I would do ridiculous things with it.
Well.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we will wrap this up then. Well, I am in your debt. Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh man, thanks for thinking. Thanks for thinking that something I have to say is valuable. Thank you. I'm serious. I'm serious. You just thank you. It means a lot to me.
That's. I was excited. Jamie can tell you, I was excited. I was just like, yeah, we're gonna get Eric on. It's like I've been dying for this. All right, so while Erica looks up our podcast, we we'll sign off for now. You have been listening to After Dark with Jamie and Clint and Erica. I'm Clint. He's Jamie.
I'm LJ.
And she's Erica. And we'll see you next week. Until then, tell your mama I said hey.
Listening to After Dark with Jamie and Clint. Visit our website at www.adwjc.com. This is Delroy. Until next time, thanks for listening.